Live on LBC News to Eliot Wilson, the writer and commentator, strategic advisor, former clerk in the House of Commons on the Defence Committee. Thank you very much for joining us again this morning on LBC News. Your reaction to this, how significant an announcement is this?
Well, I mean, it's not hugely surprising in the sense that the money needs to be spent. But I think what's odd is the way that the current Prime Minister and indeed his predecessor framed the nuclear deterrent and indeed a lot of defence projects as essentially work creation programmes. You know, they talk about how many jobs it's going to support. Now, there are obviously jobs to be supported, and the UK is very strong in the defence industry. But if you wanted merely to support jobs, you wouldn't build a nuclear submarine to do it. So it's a peculiar way of framing it, but I suspect it reflects a degree of ambivalence on the part of the Prime Minister and more importantly on the part of some of his supporters about the fact that we are renewing the deterrent. But we've decided to do that. It needs to be done. It's already behind schedule. The current Vanguard submarines are having to go out way longer on patrol than they were designed to do. So we've already got a bit of a sort of thinly stretched crisis. So this needs to be done.
I suppose what the Prime Minister is trying to achieve is that there are more benefits to investing in this sort of thing beyond just security. He says keeping this country safe is the first responsibility of any government, but security is not only about what we build, it is about who builds it and who benefits from it. It ties into his message about reindustrialisation and creating more jobs and that sort of thing, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I'm slightly sceptical about reindustrialisation anyway, because it seems to me it's the sort of pursuance of an economic order which has passed for very good reasons. But I think the danger is that if you concentrate on the kind of economic benefits of defence procurement, you end up making decisions on the wrong basis. You end up saying, well, what will benefit the British economy more, as opposed to what is the right equipment, what is the nice, what's the best value for money, things like that. We've had that in the past where we've always chosen Britain first in terms of manufacturing things, and that's not always been the right choice. So I think it's a danger of prioritisation rather than of the fact that, yes, of course, we do support jobs and the defence industry is very important to this country.
I suppose the wider conversation, the wider debate is going to be about the overall defence investment. He and his new Chancellor, John Healey, having to find ways of filling this defence spending plan. Do you sort of get the sense that he's, I don't know, trying to get across that brief and how it's going to be filled, how the money's going to be found?
I think there is a problem as to how the money is going to be found, given that the Prime Minister doesn't seem to want to cut anything or doesn't particularly seem to want to raise taxes either. I think the problem is that, John Healey resigned a month ago as Defence Secretary, and he said that he believed that we had to spend 3% of gross domestic product by 2030 on defence. Now, that's a kind of halfway house. It's not an official NATO target. The official NATO target is 3.5% by 2035. The problem is if you don't hit 3% by 2030, there's no way you're going to hit the actual NATO target. So the fact that the Prime Minister and indeed the Defence Secretary won't commit to that interim target, which is the figure over which John Healey resigned, I think does suggest that there's a degree of confusion and a degree of difference of opinion within the government. John Healey will obviously, he has now a wider role to play because he has to look after spending for all departments. But clearly he will want to fund that defence commitment if he can. The Prime Minister, I suspect, is less enthused. It's not his forte. It's not his sphere of interest particularly. So it's going to be interesting to see where the priorities lie. But I think we are, we're very short of money, and we need more money for defence just to keep us going where we are. That's without getting any further in terms of modernisation and things like that.
Eliot Wilson, thank you for joining us this morning on LBC News. Coming up